What's up guys, Stan here, and we finally made it. It's taken much longer than it should have, but I finally completed the entire Mario 3D All-Stars pack, and after 64 and Sunshine both underwhelmed and surprised me, it's time for my favorite of the bunch in Super Mario Galaxy. So fuel up and get ready to explore the universe as we finally end this trilogy of Mario-centric reviews. Shortly after the underwhelming sales performance of Super Mario Sunshine, Shigeru Miyamoto encouraged Nintendo EAD to revisit the spherical gameplay elements found in the Mario 128 tech demo from Space World 2000. And in 2004, after development on Donkey Kong Jungle Beat had commenced, Yoshiaki Koizumi and his team reconvened to figure out how to not only implement these gravity-defying concepts into a full-blown platformer, but how to do so without straying too far from the traditional Mario formula. And as development proceeded, it became increasingly clear that the simplest way to achieve both goals was to take the Italian plumber further than he'd ever gone before, as the series headed into outer space. Given the familiar star motif found throughout the series, as well as the inclusion of Miyamoto's long-desired anti-gravity mechanics, the cosmic setting proved to be a no-brainer for Mario's next adventure. And with the creative license to be as broad and bombastic with gameplay as possible, it only made sense that this galactic sequel would feature music that matched its universal scope, with the game's soundtrack predominantly being scored by a 50-person orchestra, a first for the series. And after many years of trial and error and an eventual shift in development onto next-gen hardware, Super Mario Galaxy finally released worldwide in November 2007 on the Nintendo Wii to near-perfect scores across the board. Considered one of the greatest video games ever made, Galaxy once again revolutionized the platforming genre like 64 and the original Super Mario Bros. Before it. And with its sprawling worlds, inventive mechanics, and powerful arrangements, it would go on to win multiple Game of the Year awards from various publications. And along with the overwhelming praise, and thanks to the Nintendo Wii's wider cultural impact, Galaxy would go on to sell more than 12 million units throughout its lifetime, more than doubling Sunshine's disappointing numbers and re-establishing the global icon as the face of gaming once again. When it comes to my personal experience with Mario's Galactic Adventure, I sort of stumbled into it, having rented it for my Wii, which was sitting around collecting dust while it waited for that sweet Smash Bros. Action the following March. But before I could even think about Sonic or Subspace Emissaries, the game got its hooks into me in a big way. It was like seeing Mario 64 play out exactly how my 4-year-old brain perceived it back in the day, except everything about it was elevated and better realized. Remember, due to my lack of a GameCube, I had completely skipped over Sunshine, so going from this to this was a massive upgrade for a longtime Nintendo fan who'd grown up on stuff like 64 and World. Actually, I fell so hard for this game that despite only having a week to play it thanks to rental times and late fees, I managed to not only beat the thing once, but twice, all within the 7 days I got to call it mine. For my troubles, I was rewarded with 2 virtual pictures, a newfound sense of gaming-related pride I hadn't felt since Ocarina of Time, and a beautiful experience that would lead me to refer to Super Mario Galaxy as my favorite game of all time well into my 20s, before finally being dethroned by Chrono Trigger only a few years ago. So yeah, I absolutely adore this game. Probably more so than anything else I've ever discussed on my channel. And I'd be lying if I said that my past experiences and memories with Galaxy won't have some influence on both my positive takeaways and personal criticisms throughout this review. That being said though, I will do my absolute best to be as unbiased and fair to this one as I possibly can. And it should be mentioned early on that despite being a massive fan, my opinions have shifted a bit over the past decade as we've gotten even more incredible games to play. So how much exactly have they changed? Well, you'll have to stick around through this video to find out. But let's just say that like crossing the cosmos in a bee outfit, things are bound to get a little sticky. And so without wasting any more time, here it is, my Super Mario Galaxy in-depth review. On the night of the Star Festival, an event marking a comet's centennial descent over the Mushroom Kingdom, Mario is invited to the castle by Princess Peach, who has something important to share with him. However, as our protagonist makes his way towards his intended destination, Bowser appears along with a fleet of airships, sowing chaos across the courtyard. And despite his best efforts, even Mario with his unrivaled athleticism is no match for the tyrannical Emperor, as Bowser abducts the princess along with her entire home before fleeing towards the center of the universe, leaving Mario defeated as he's launched into the depths of space. By some miracle, he soon awakens on an unfamiliar planet alongside an alien creature known as Luma, who eventually introduces him to its mama, Rosalina. This Amazonian space goddess travels across the stars as a watcher of worlds alongside her star-shaped companions. However, it seems that before the game's events, Bowser and his troops robbed her comet observatory of its power stars, leaving it more immobile than a fat Yoshi in Super Mario RPG. Now, along with Rosalina and her Luma family, it's up to Mario to travel across various galaxies in order to retrieve the scattered stars, and slowly bring power back to the observatory so that they can rescue the princess and defeat Bowser before he's able to conquer the entire universe. And eventually, after taking down Bowser for the final time, Mario rescues his special one and saves the day. However, this time, there's a small problem. Due to their climactic battle, the two eternal rivals accidentally created a black hole that begins absorbing everything in the universe. This, of course, is also why we're never allowed to see Waluigi or Geno in Smash, as the mechanics of this solar system simply can't handle such impossible events.
Oh!
Yep.
Oh! No! No! No!
Anyways, with all hope seemingly lost, the entire Luma clan sacrificed themselves to stop the wormhole and generate a supernova, which recreates the universe anew. This leads to Mario, Bowser, and everyone else reawakening within the walls of a readjusted Mushroom Kingdom as part of a brand new galaxy, as we learn that the Lumas did in fact survive the ordeal, bringing us to the end of our adventure, at least for now. We'll touch on that tease a little later on, but taking the storyline at face value, it's pretty basic stuff. However, the sense of scope and in-game explanation of the Power Stars and their mechanical purpose for defeating Bowser makes for a somewhat deeper plot than we usually get in most 3D Mario games. There's a high level of ambition and care put into crafting this otherworldly narrative, and although it's nowhere near as complex or cinematic as Sunshine's, given the epic setting and emphasis on action, I think it works pretty well here. I especially loved the introduction of Rosalina and her Luma companions within the story, and though both of these cosmic parties are still somewhat shrouded in mystery, throughout the game we learn more about their character and motivations by visiting the observatory library, wherein the blonde enchantress reads from a picture book that provides her backstory for players. It turns out that Rosalina is in fact human, just like our main hero and his princess. However, during the events of the previous Star Festival, she was swept up in a galactic adventure of her own, wherein she befriended and eventually became a surrogate mother to the multicolored Lumas. Throughout her time traveling the galaxy, she deals with issues of hunger, loneliness, and of course, homesickness. And it's eventually even revealed that while she was young, her mother passed away and was buried under her family tree, which is what likely caused her to flee the planet in the first place. Eventually, her heart becomes so full of sadness that in one final act to console her, her original Luma partner sacrifices itself to transform into the very common observatory that we're now trying to save, in hopes that one day it will have enough power to return back to Rosalina's home planet so that she may find some closure. In return, the distraught runaway pledges to take care of the other Lumas as though they were her children, hoping one day that they can all return together as they travel the universe in a never-ending adventure. And that, my friends, is the magic of a game like Mario Galaxy, where a short backstory meant for children can bring a tear to a grown man's eye. The part with Rosalina's mother in particular actually made me gasp during my review playthrough, as I'd somehow completely forgotten that depressing detail. And it's small elements like this that, while not reinventing the wheel or anything, do add an almost Pixar-like quality of injecting powerful emotions into a simple narrative that reframes the way you think about your interactions with these characters and settings. Somehow, Rosalina, the 7'3" immortal space god, comes across as the most human character in a series about literal Italians. And her impact is a testament to the hardworking team's ambition to go above and beyond in a game traditionally better at showing rather than telling. And it's because of this that Rosalina is my favorite character in the entire franchise, and in my mind is who I think of when I picture this remarkable duology of games. Well, her are the Lumas, but they sort of go hand in hand like Masahiro Sakurai and his love of murdering the Mario Brothers in Ultimate CG trailers. Oh, and speaking of siblings, surprisingly Luigi turns out to be quite an important character throughout Galaxy, especially after the credits have rolled. However, to really get into all of that, I think now's the time to grab an ice flower as we skate ahead into the pros. Now this is how you do post-game content and completion bonuses. Unlike 64's Yoshi-rific surprise, or Sunshine's infamous end credits photograph, Galaxy is a completionist's dream, as upon collecting the 120th Power Star and beating the final boss once again, you'll unlock the ability to replay the game at your leisure, but this time as Luigi. That's right, it turns out El is Real 2007, because Mario's often overlooked younger brother makes his first playable appearance in an original 3D Mario adventure after over a decade on the sidelines. And other than being one of the absolute coolest completion rewards in any Super Mario game period, he's also a blast to control. Taking cues from previous games in the series, Luigi plays like a slipperier version of Mario, with an increased emphasis on verticality and jumping distance at the cost of sliding all over the place if he builds up enough momentum. And although that may sound harmless enough, throughout your second playthrough, these seemingly innocuous changes do add up into a different, if slightly more challenging experience for the player. And it's when paired with this unusual sight of Luigi at the center of the story's biggest moments that his inclusion into Galaxy becomes both a bit more comical and also truly appreciated. But of course, when it comes to video game heroes and their athleticism, nobody holds a candle to his more experienced brother, because even without FLUDD at his side, Mario himself still sets the tone for platforming excellence when it comes to both movement and moveset. Unlike in Sunshine, where there was an inherent slipperiness to him that was easy to overlook thanks to that game's overcompensating water gun, in Galaxy, the portly plumber has much more weight and gravity to his mobility that, in combination with the literal gravity of the environments around him, makes for arguably the smoothest three-dimensional gameplay ever found in a traditional platformer. It doesn't matter if he's running 360 degrees around a planet, or shifting between 2D planes in low-gravity environments, or swimming, or even skating across a field of ice, you almost always feel confident and in control of Mario's movements. And whenever you do wind up missing a jump or accidentally running face first into an enemy, it rarely, if ever, feels like the game or its camera were the cause. Now, some would argue that the game is so well balanced that it actually winds up as one of the easiest Mario titles available. And while I'm inclined to agree, after all, the Crimson Icon only has 3 life bars in total this time around, a stark contrast from his previous campaigns, I think that the lower degree of difficulty allows players to really take control of their progress however they want to without worrying about failure. The mission statement throughout Super Mario Galaxy's development was to create a game that could appeal to anyone between the ages of 5 and 95, and given how inviting and perfectly realized 90% of these worlds are, especially in combination with Mario's movement options and abilities, it's clear that it succeeds in achieving this uncompromising goal, at least most of the time. And speaking of abilities, despite no longer being an aquatic cyborg, I would argue that Mario is more capable of defeating his enemies in creative, albeit slightly more simplistic ways than ever before. Along with many of his moveset staples, such as the backflip and triple jump, the long jump makes its grand return from 64, along with the brand new spin mechanic that subtly adds to his growing arsenal in a surprising way. At first, this may sound like a purely offensive tool, and despite working wonders as a method of combat against both big and small foes alike, where it really shines is as a weapon of athleticism, allowing Mario to gain an additional bit of distance, or simply land from an awkward jump with a greater sense of precision than ever before. I can't even begin to tell you guys how many times my runs were saved by this spin tool in particular, and given the many time-sensitive and boss-heavy trials featured across this campaign, it's no stretch to say that without it, completing this game and unlocking Luigi would be a much more daunting challenge overall. Although, even if Mario's new attack wasn't included, given the scope and breadth of settings and mission styles found throughout Galaxy, you'd still likely want to experience everything the game has to offer, at least once. Going back to the more interspersed and often non-connected level design philosophy popularized by 64 after the repeat tropical destinations of Sunshine was almost certainly for the best, as it once again allows for more unique and memorable takes on the various themes and elements that give each respective galaxy its own identity. Aside from a few fresh concepts like Toy Time and Honey Hive, there's a lot of familiarity found in terms of Galaxy settings, with the game boasting golden standards like ice, lava, and sand areas, among other tried and true platforming staples often featured throughout the genre's long and derivative history. But given the low-gravity environments, spherical platforming sections, and creative design used to enhance each locale, nearly every single galaxy has multiple missions that make them stand apart from what's come before. Whether it's a race against a flabby shark utilizing the powers of a Koopa shell in an underwater halo, or a Shadow of the Colossus-esque climbing sequence to destroy an enemy toy robot, there's so much cool and memorable stuff found in every level. And making things even better, once again you're able to go for certain power stars out of their intended order, adding some much needed variety and replayability back into your playthrough. Now, the power of choice is nowhere near as prominent as Mario 64's, with many of these hidden MacGuffins reminding me more of something akin to the secret exits found in previous titles like Super Mario World, where within a specific episode, you can discover a diverging path which will often lead you to a secondary, more secluded power star within that particular mission. And whether it was uncovering a secret warp star on the path less traveled, or feeding a hungry Luma until it exploded into a separate galaxy altogether, I love the sense of reward that this game provides players who put in the effort to comb through everything possible. And I think, unlike Sunshine's more linear approach to progression, that this sense of discovery and choice can only add to the game's appeal for both first-timers, as well as those who strap in for another round of galactic euphoria. Which is of particular importance here due to the literal need to play through the game twice as both Mario and Luigi if players wish to unlock the final 2 missions. However, it's in this game's prankster comments that the real fun begins, as Galaxy wisely omits its controversial red and 100 coin stars of the past in order to remix many of the game's best episodes in fresh and exciting ways. But whether it's a Daredevil comment that forces me to hold on to 1 hit point for the duration of a boss fight, or a race against this Shadow Mario wannabe, I will always take something distinctive over the more mindless padding of previous campaigns. There's also a dozen or so purple comet stars to collect. However, while serving as a nice palette cleanser that breaks up some of the latter game monotony, for every 100 coin mission on the back of an 8-bit Luigi, there were far too many that were nothing short of tedious. And given that the only way to unlock these episodes is to beat the game first, if you're like me, you'll probably end up playing most of these missions back to back to back on your way towards the final 20 or so remaining stars. Which, although not necessarily a con, is a bit of poor developmental oversight for a game that encourages completion, at least in my opinion. Now though, it's time to discuss Galaxy's presentation, and despite my reluctance to often judge audio too critically, given I'm not a musician myself, even I can recognize that when it comes to soundtracks, Mario Galaxy is a clear contender for not only one of the best scores within gaming, but also maybe within any artistic medium ever. Immediately after the game's release, its influence on the industry was obvious, as all of a sudden it seemed like every AAA developer and even Nintendo themselves were swept up in trying to recapture the magic of Mahito Yokota and Koji Kondo's brilliantly orchestrated themes. In fact, the soundtrack was so good that eventually Nintendo just started throwing it into future Wii bundles, which shows the level of pride and confidence they must have felt in regards to this masterful offering. This is music that you can feel, and it expertly weaves itself throughout Galaxy's many worlds and puzzles, always emboldening the player to give themselves into the grandiose adventure ahead without hesitation, and propelling them to heights that the series has never reached before. My personal favorite tracks are the Gusty Garden theme that slaps you in the face with its opulence immediately upon entering the level, as well as Rosalina in the Observatory, which is the bubbling track that plays as you navigate the starship, building in terms of both instrumentation and ambition as you gather more power stars and imbue life back into the weakened hub world. But of course, audio is only half of the equation, and although it may originally have been released on the Wii, to me at least, this flare-heavy visual style not only fits the more extraterrestrial atmosphere found in most of Galaxy, but I think it's safe to say that it's my definitive pick for peak 3D Mario aesthetic. Now, maybe that's due to nostalgia, or maybe playing the remake on the Switch has put it over the edge, but every model in this game and the more cinematic use of lighting really make you feel like this is something special. And when combined with such a revolutionary score, the entire presentation comes alive in a way that I would argue outshines every other game on the Wii. And despite moving away from the controversial voice acting and emphasis on color we got in Sunshine, between the gorgeous cosmic backdrops, glorious boss fights, high-octane cutscenes, and well-defined characters, I truly believe that this is a game worth celebrating, and I'm thrilled that even in modern times, it still garners the respect and adoration it rightfully deserves. Oh, also, if you're wondering, my personal interpretation is that if 64 is about freedom and Sunshine is about experimentation, then this one, while still possessing core elements of both, is primarily about discovery. Whether it's in the literal exploration of the many galaxies and the brand new low-gravity platforming mechanics, the score growing and adapting as you proceed throughout a particular event or sequence, or the higher percentage of puzzle-based and secret pathways found across Mario's universal adventure, there's a level of trial, error, and growth that encourages discovery through every segment in some form or another. But despite all of this praise and success, Super Mario Galaxy is not infallible, and it does fall short in a few important areas. So grab your Wiimote and collect those star bits, because I've got an overwhelming craving to get into the cons, and I think it's time to transform. While Galaxy boasts many incredible and varied courses over its playthrough, there's no denying that towards the end of your journey, you'll likely encounter some déjà vu, as many of the game's most creative assets, worlds, and even boss battles are reutilized in order to give Galaxy its franchise-mandated 120 power stars. If you watched my Mario Sunshine review, you'll remember that this is a recurring issue that's plagued the franchise since 64 established the trend. And although it's not quite as egregious this time around, there's no denying that everything from the prankster comments to the Luigi completion reward and subsequent need to beat the game again in order to unlock the game's true ending exists to artificially inflate its runtime. Again, most of the padding is done in a genuinely fun or remixed way, like adding a timer or a greater degree of difficulty into previously simple episodes and fights. But come on guys, Gold Leaf Galaxy is a straight up mirror of Honey Hive, even if it does add some new puzzles into the mix. Also, speaking of Honey Hive, it's here we get the first of many new power-ups in Mario's repertoire, as we eventually unlock the bee costume. And although there's no question that the chubby Italian looks adorable in his new getup, as an actual power-up, it leaves a lot to be desired. In fact, aside from the Fire Flower making its grand return to the series in a new 3D way, and possibly the Ice Flower, which does exactly what you'd assume, most of Galaxy's additions are once again ridiculously situational, with both the Bee and Ghost transformations only utilized for a handful of power stars each. And unlike in Sunshine, there's not even secondary collectibles like the blue coins to make use of these flaccid upgrades, which not only makes the already smothering spotlight on power stars even more glaring, but also ensures that most of these power-ups are destined to be forgotten. Plus, they finally managed to make a flying Mario work in a 3D space, but then chose to relegate the thing to the hub world. Like, you don't even use it to collect a single power or grand star aside from the gate mission where it's unlocked. Which is just ridiculous, because given how vast many of these worlds are, being able to access the Red Star power-up and go exploring would have made for a much more replayable experience that I imagine wouldn't have been too dissimilar to 64 and its use of caps. But hey, at least it doesn't require motion controls to maintain, because whether you're playing with a Wii Remote, Pro Controller, or in handheld mode on the Switch, some of the worst moments in Galaxy are brought to you by this mid-2000s gimmick. Even those like myself who consider Galaxy among the genre's greatest achievements still bemoan these finicky courses. And although it's clear that including them was a way of showcasing and celebrating the Wii's impact at the time, in hindsight, it desperately dates this otherwise smooth adventure. Seriously, I think I must have tried 20 different attempts at completing the Loop-de-Swoop Galaxy alone. And though a name like that might indicate some semblance of joy, if you attempt this manta surfing challenge as many times as I did, I guarantee you'll be left feeling the exact opposite when you finally stand atop the elusive podium to collect your prize. And lastly, in my opinion, Galaxy's final flaw is its underwhelming reward for playing through the game and collecting every single power star, not once, but twice. The grand finale Galaxy feels more like a stroll down memory lane than an actual challenge, and compared to the sequel's Grand Master Galaxy, feels like a lame prize for all of your troubles. I mean, sure, you get to see all of your favorite characters one last time and even receive a token of appreciation from the game's developers in the form of 2 special images commemorating your achievement. But honestly, you're better off 100%ing the game with Mario, giving Luigi a test drive for a mission or 2, and then putting it away for a while until you're ready to go through the entire experience again with some new energy. Also, as an aside, and maybe this is more of a personal gripe, but why on earth do they put the entrance to the final area on the back of the Green Star Trial Planet? Like, the game clearly tells you that you've unlocked something, but after speaking to Rosalina on the main part of the observatory, I was under the impression that they wanted me to take on Bowser in one final battle for the 5th time between both playthroughs, only to discover that this wasn't the case at all, and they just opted to put the necessary warp star in a place you'd almost never think to look. It's just a weird thing to do. But aside from the power-ups, derivative elements, motion control levels, and egregious use of padding, I do think that ultimately the game lives up to its reputation and remains one of the best platformers ever made. Just please, no more Bowser fights. I'm done watching the universe implode over and over again. So with all of that out of the way, let's fire up the engine and head towards the center of this review as we rescue our special one in the final verdict. Honestly, I don't know what else to say. If you can't tell by now, the world absolutely cherishes Super Mario Galaxy, and I'm obviously no exception. It's a beautiful take on a classic formula that constantly seeks to push both its genre and medium as a whole forward. And its creative design, deep sense of discovery, and wonderful attention to trial, error, and reward is enough to cement it as my favorite installment in the Super Mario franchise. Galaxy is quite simply put a remarkable marriage of cinematic visuals, near-perfect gameplay, and arguably the greatest score ever composed, culminating in a milestone addition to a series notorious for its constant success and reinvention. However, its wasted use of power-ups, archaic motion controls, and adherence to padding and repetition keep it from being the utter masterpiece I'd remembered. And despite it still retaining its spot among my personal favorite games, I do believe that a casual, more modern-day fan of Mario will appreciate its successors such as Galaxy 2 and Odyssey just a little bit more. And so, taking all of that into consideration, I think it's fair to award this cosmic gem with an A. If you're in the mood for something fun with a bit more story and some of the best platforming you'll ever encounter, I urge you to pick this one up. Because unlike the other 2/3 of the 3D All-Stars collection, Super Mario Galaxy is an uncomplicated masterpiece of an adventure that holds up remarkably well in today's more sophisticated climate, and in my opinion is a must-own for both new and old-school gamers alike. Just maybe save the motion control stuff for the very end. Well, I actually did it. 3 classic Mario adventures reviewed for your entertainment, and although originally the plan was to tackle Galaxy 2 next, let's be real, you guys have waited long enough. That's right, this early spring, please look forward to my in-depth review of Pokemon Sun and Moon, Two games that I have lots and lots of thoughts on. Together we'll choose our starter, explore the Alola region, and talk about some of the best and worst changes introduced to the series in this long-awaited Gen 7 retrospective. But until then, I want to hear your thoughts on Super Mario Galaxy and the 3D All-Stars pack as a whole down in the comment section below. Please like, subscribe, and ring that bell if you haven't done so already for more Nintendo goodness. And as I always say, happy hunting, baby rhinos. Peace. As always, I want to thank my amazing members for their continued support. You guys are the absolute best, and I couldn't make these reviews without you. If you'd like to support the channel and join the growing stampede of baby rhinos, then please check out the link in the description below. It starts at only $2 per month, there's a ton of perks and bonuses including early access to these videos, and it helps me to continue producing this longer form content. Thanks as always for watching this one, and have a great day.